Good evening. Welcome to the November 26th Board of Education Business Meeting. At this time, we have a quorum. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve the October 19th and 29th minutes?
I make a motion to approve the following minutes of October 19, the Board of Education building inspection, and October 29, Board of Education.
Second.
Moved and second on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on, Madam Clerk, any correspondence? No correspondence. And no visitors at this time. So move to the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, President Grosso. Good evening and welcome to the November meeting of the Board of Education. Last month, I shared that the board is working with our neighbor at LIJ Valley Stream to assist with the installation of a new MRI machine. The first portion of the work would be to take out their existing MRI machine. The hospital MRI area will then be under renovation for a period of time, and then there will be another portion of work when the new MRI is brought in. The work, if it proceeds, would take place when school is not in session, either over the weekend or over a break, and mainly involves bringing a large crane on site at Deaver in the backfield area. I have a diagram here in the front, and this diagram shows you the location of the work. If you can see, it is in the red hash marked and black area where there will be pads put down by the crane company, and then the crane will be located on those pads. We're going to continue to keep the public up to date on this situation with the hospital, and we would be sure to inform the public as we get closer to any work being done, particularly our Wheeler families, but also the community at large, as we may have to close the Deaver site for a short period of time over the weekend. At last month's meeting, we spoke about the balance between transparency and confidentiality. One of the ways we can work towards transparency is providing opportunities for all district stakeholders to participate in information sharing. Last week, we launched a survey through our Thought Exchange to engage the community in our new strategic planning initiative. I'm pleased to report that we received just under 600 responses to the survey, and we will be reviewing that data in December. There are 3 other data collections that we are engaged in for this strategic planning initiative. Last June, we surveyed our current students, asking them what they liked best about their school and what they would like to see improved. In December, we are going to be surveying our alumni students in grades 7 through 12 that attend the Valley Stream Central High School District. The survey for those alumni students allows them to tell us about their elementary experience and whether or not they felt prepared for secondary school. Lastly, we will be forming focus groups for small in-person data collection in January and February. We look forward to sharing what we learn with everyone in the spring. So please stay tuned for more information on this important initiative. Mr. Antoine, our Assistant Superintendent for Business and Human Resources, and I have begun the 2025-2026 budget meetings and are in the early phase of prioritizing what we'll be presenting in the budget to the Board of Education and the community. Everything is preliminary at this point, as we rely on New York State budget information that won't be available until the end of January. At last month's meeting, a parent shared concerns about the large population at Wheeler and asked about all 4 buildings and the possibility of having assistant principals. She shared that events typically happen at recess and that we should ensure we have enough staff for safe supervision. This is a very important topic and one that the Board of Education will be considering as we go through the budget process. In the meantime, I have recommended and the board has agreed that we will extend the noon hour supervisor's hours at Wheeler to cover the remainder of the day after recess to assist Dr. Pete Butcher. Tonight, I would like to introduce our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Lorraine Radice, who is going to be presenting our annual State of the District presentation with a specific focus on student learning. Dr. Radice?
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here tonight to share the State of the District presentation with you, which will focus on a review of learning and achievement during the 23-24 school year. So this presentation includes information about our students' achievement on our local benchmark assessments, as well as our New York State assessments. We'll also talk about student achievement from the lens of the new New York State Portrait of a Graduate initiative. We'll look at Valley Stream 13 as a joyful place to learn, and then we'll look at goals and next steps for this current school year and then beyond. So the New York State Department of Education recently shared information about a Portrait of a Graduate initiative, and the Portrait of a Graduate is a pre-K to 12 framework to look at learning and experiences in school for students to prepare them for the multiple pathways that students may encounter and choose after high school. And the Portrait of a Graduate captures the mindsets, the knowledge, the skills, the attributes of what it takes to participate in the 21st century in whatever pathway students may choose post-secondary. Even though this is an initiative that is often used to have conversation around graduation and what it means to be successful beyond high school, it is a pre-K to 12 initiative, as I said, and we felt that it would be helpful to use as a reflection and a planning tool to capture our experiences in Valley Stream 13, because we want to prepare our students to move into the secondary realm with these attributes, but also to cultivate them here at the elementary level while we build social, emotional, and academic foundational skills. So as you can see in the center, there's an image that goes along with each of the attributes of the Portrait of a Graduate. So critical thinker, innovative problem solver, literate across the content area, cultural competence, social emotional competence, effective communicator, and global citizen. Those are all things we want to instill in our students. Throughout the presentation, on the top right of each slide, you're going to see those images appear because we've used them to frame the presentation about learning and achievement, drawing it back to this framework to speak to the overall experience that students have in school here in Valley Stream 13. I'm going to start by sharing our quantitative data, and the first assessment that we'll look at is the NWEA assessment, and we'll look at NWEA through the lens of growth and achievement. NWEA stands for the Northwest Evaluation Association, and we administer something called the MAP assessment. The MAP stands for the Measures of Academic Progress, and it measures a student's overall achievement in reading, language, and math. So we have here our ELA data on the left and our math data on the right. And because NWEA is a nationally normed assessment, they use a unit of measure called the RIT. And the RIT stands for the RASH unit, which is their indicator of achievement. And they give you nationally normed data so that you can look at your district's performance in comparison to what is nationally normed. So in reading, our students are at or above the national average in all grades, except for grades 3, 5, and 6 in the spring. And in math, kindergarten, grade 2, and grade 6 are at or above the national average. Grades 3 and 5 are slightly below the national average, and grade 1 in the spring and grade 4 in the fall, students are slightly below. Overall, there is a trajectory of growth throughout the year. We also will look at NWEA in terms of growth. So the NWEA assessment is adaptive, which means that as students take the test, it looks different for each individual. The assessment moves with the student based on how successful they are as they move through the questions. So if a student is excelling through the questions, they might increase in rigor, they might be a couple of more questions to match the level of proficiency. If a student is experiencing challenges with the assessment, the level of questions might decrease in difficulty, it might be a little bit shorter in length. But NWEA gives students individual growth targets that they can work toward throughout the course of the year. So what you see up here, again on the left is ELA and on the right is math, is the percentage of students who met their growth targets, both in the spring of 2023 and then in the spring of 2024. So since we're looking at this in terms of growth, we look at the end of year, and I'm showing you 2 years because we can look at cohorts across years and how they perform, and we can also do a cross-year comparison. So in grades K to 5, in reading and in math, the percentage of students meeting their growth targets from 23 to 24 increased. With kindergarten as an exception in math, it was the percentage of students meeting their growth targets was slightly lower in the spring of 24. And in grade 6, you can see that the grade level has a lower percentage of students meeting their growth targets in 2024 in reading and math, and they are on the lower range of the percentage of students meeting their growth targets. In addition to NWEA, we also administer the Fontes-Sempionnel Benchmark Assessment System. So the Fontes-Sempionnel Benchmark Assessment System is a tool that helps educators to evaluate a student in reading in the areas of fluency, accuracy and decoding, and comprehension. So here we see grades 1 through 6. Kindergarten is not there because that assessment is not administered 3 times a year. First grade is on the bottom, and then we work our way to the top with the green bar in grade 6. And the overall trend in this data is that the number of students reading on or above grade level increases across the year, and the number of students reading below grade level decreases across the year. What's important about this assessment is that when we do get an instructional reading level, teachers look at the actual assessment and look at the attributes of the level that students are instructional at. What does the text demand of the student? How is the text structured? What's the thinking that's involved in navigating that text successfully? And they use that information to form small groups and to really target instruction to match readers where they are in their trajectory. In addition, in the earlier grades, we administer the Acadience Reading Assessment. So in kindergarten, our students came in, I'll share the data and then I'll share a little bit more about the assessment to contextualize. But again, we're looking at growth across the year. 67% of our students came into kindergarten at or above benchmark, and 33% were below or well below benchmark. And in the spring, 58% of students were at or above benchmark, and 43% were below or well below. So because the Acadience is designed to target a universal screening of early literacy assessments, the assessments actually change as students move throughout the year. So in kindergarten in the fall, we assess first sound fluency. So a teacher will give a student a word, Matt, what's the first sound that you hear? And then we also assess letter naming fluency. So we see how many letter names students are able to recognize. Because students develop in their early literacy skills across kindergarten, the assessments that are given in the spring differ slightly. So we do give the letter naming fluency assessment again. We want to make sure that students are leaving kindergarten knowing all their letters, and if they don't, to put a specific instructional plan in place to help them. But then we introduce an assessment called phoneme segmentation, and that's the ability to segment sounds. So again, in the word Matt, there's 3 sounds, at. So we're assessing students' ability to do that. And then we also introduce a nonsense word fluency assessment, and that's the ability to decode words that are not real words, but kids are able to see and hear the sounds and put them together like RIT, and to be able to decode that. In first grade, we administer the Acadians. So in the fall, 61% of students were at or above benchmark, 39% were below or well below benchmark. In the spring, 66% were at or above benchmark, and 34% below or well below benchmark. We repeat those end-of-year assessments from kindergarten in the beginning of grade 1, letter naming fluency, phoneme segmentation, and nonsense word fluency. There's a bit of an increase in rigor in the nonsense word fluency assessment, but in the spring, the assessments change because students grow and develop as readers. So we repeat the nonsense word fluency assessment, and we introduce the oral reading fluency, which captures a student's ability to read words correctly, accurately, and then perform a retelling about what they've read. So we're moving on from our local benchmark assessments to our New York State assessments in grades 3 through 6. So we administer assessments in ELA, in math, and then in science in grade 5. About 80% of our students in Valley Stream 13 do take the New York State assessments. I can direct your eyes really to the right side. I know there's a lot of numbers there. To the right side of the screen, which shows the levels 3 and 4, which is grade level proficiency and above at the school level, and then the region level, and then it shows the regional gap. Most students in Valley Stream did earn a level 2 or 3 on these assessments. Overall, we are below the regional percentage for level 3 and 4, which is grade level proficiency and above, and in all grade levels and subject areas, except for in grade 4 math. We are in line with the regional average. So you see there's a variety of data points that we look at to create instructional stories for children and put plans in place. We celebrate what we're doing well, but of course we always want to look at this and put plans in place to move forward. So this year we've already worked to put systems in place to address some of the gaps that we've seen. For example, we recently had our first round of student progress meetings over the past 2 weeks, where building principals, instructional coaches, teachers, and service providers all gathered to talk about all students who are receiving support, to make sure instructional practices and resources are aligned to match the goals that have been set for students. And then we'll reconvene in those progress meetings in January after our mid-year data, so that we are monitoring how students are doing and instructing appropriately. We also have a plan in place to look at all these assessments and to really ask ourselves philosophically, like, why do we assess in school? How does this information help us for instruction? And then to match assessments to where students are in their development. We'll have a committee in February to do this work. We're also in the process of revising our kindergarten assessment process and making direct connections to small group instruction. I've provided professional development on small group instruction and using text as tools to support readers, both in faculty meeting time and at superintendent's conference day. And we're also in the process of revising the 6th grade curriculum in the spring to match the New York State standards and to match the rigor and some of the processes that kids are going to experience beyond elementary school to get them ready for secondary school. So with that being said, the quantitative data that I just shared is very helpful and very important in putting instructional plans in place. We also want to honor that learning and achievement are multifaceted, which is one of the premises for coming up with the portrait of a graduate. And I'm going to share how students are performing in the areas of the profile of a graduate to show that we really aim to celebrate and instruct the whole child here in Valley Stream 13. So one part of the profile of a graduate is that students are literate across the content area. So our students have a variety in programming here in Valley Stream 13, and in all of these areas, history, print media making, music, art, math, social studies, multilingual celebrations and cultural celebrations, discourse and literacies are all part of that work. So students are learning to be literate in many different ways, which contributes to their overall academic and social success. Students are also practicing being critical thinkers, so students are pondering the relationship between the human experience and technology. We have enrichment opportunities for students. You can see that in the top right, students are practicing with a Gravitrack, where they're building a marble run. On the bottom center, a student was writing a futuristic storyline for future careers in STEAM and exploring the publishing process. Students have a lot of opportunity for team building and contributing to being part of their school community and thinking critically about their roles as students. And then in the top left, you can see a student is experimenting with virtual reality, where students built constellations and had an opportunity to experience space from an astronaut's perspective. Students are also innovative problem solvers, so they have opportunities to build Rube Goldberg machines, another marble run there in the center to match a time period that a student was studying, which was the Victorian era. Students are designing gardening spaces in their school. They're building structures through teamwork. We have many opportunities for students to develop cultural competence. We have multicultural nights. Students learn about various holidays. We invite guests and special people in our students' lives into our school buildings to teach students about different cultures and life paths. Our students build social and emotional competence. So we celebrate things like Neurodiversity Week, the Great Kindness Challenge, PS I Love You Day, Unity Day. We have our ruler program. Students are learning healthy ways to regulate emotion. Our students are learning effective ways to communicate through art, music, writing. We have public events that our students can present at, like Board of Education meetings when we celebrated the board. Our students study communication with our district guidance counselor, Mr. Boyle, and ways to be effective communicators. Our students also practice being global citizens, so we partner with local organizations like Crossroads Farm, where students are really contemplating the relationship between human behavior and the natural environment. We celebrate things like Veterans Day, what it means to be a responsible member of a school community through things like student council. Our students celebrated the solar eclipse and had a virtual assembly last year to do so. So really giving kids opportunities to practice civics and to connect with people and organizations outside of the school walls. And finally, we do want to celebrate that school is a joyful place for kids and staff to be. So we, again, invite parents and special guests in to celebrate the work of our students. We celebrate all people in our school community, so on the bottom left there, you see students decorated aprons for the cafeteria staff as a thank you. In the middle top, that student in the middle with the Gap shirt, she was moving and the class threw her a party and said, "We will miss you," and wanted her to know how special she was. We have school field trips, we have holiday celebrations, so a lot of joyful experiences, again, just to elevate students and staff and make them happy in our buildings. We also have a lot of accolades and accomplishments. So we participate in events like Music in the Parks. We were named the best community for music education. Our students' artwork is displayed in places within our local community. We had Trustee Vicente, who was honored as an Outstanding School Board Service Award. She received that award. Ms. Janice Baremski was named Art Teacher of the Year by the New York State Art Association. So our school community members and our students are very successful and deserve kudos for that. So that brings us to our next steps. So we frame here in Valley Stream 13 our goals around high quality curriculum and instruction, leadership and innovation, and systems thinking. So we're always prioritizing student engagement, and that changes and fluctuates as our students change. We prioritize future readiness, of course, community, connectedness, that was a thread throughout this presentation, and then our school facilities and security to make sure our buildings are safe and comfortable places for staff and for students to learn. And as Dr. LaRocca said earlier, we are in the middle of we're just starting actually our strategic planning initiatives, so we got feedback from the community. We will develop focus groups, and that will help to design goals for the future of our district so that all can feel a part of it. I definitely feel proud to be part of this team, and I thank you for your attention, and I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
That's it.
I'm sorry, stop there. Okay, I have a few questions.
Sure.
In the NWEA RIT scores, I noticed that in the beginning of the year, during fall, the numbers are way lower than the spring.
Yes.
I'm assuming that that has to do with in between the school break, from summer to fall,
Right, at that grade level.
at those grades.
Right, and the national norm of the assessment of where students are at that point of the year, and then where they are
Where they
after
are.
a year of instruction.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So is there, and you don't have to answer this right now if we're not doing it or
Okay.
we plan on doing it another time?
Yeah.
Are we doing something more targeted, something to target the students during the summer so that they're not losing so much during the summer than from where they were in the spring? Is that something that we do besides or read a book?
Right.
Is there something more constructive, more specific, so that they're not losing so much?
So we do have 3 summer programs that are academically focused. One of them prioritizes students who receive special education services, the extended year program. We also have a summer program that is for our ENL students who are learning English as a new language. And then for the past couple of years, we have had a program that is designed specifically for students who demonstrate the need for additional support to really prevent that summer slide and losing what they gained during the school year in the areas of reading and math. And those students are determined through conversations with classroom teachers and service providers and invited to participate in the program so that they are receiving academic support throughout a couple of weeks of the summer to keep them, elevated to start school in September comfortably.
Yeah, and that's for every grade.
Correct. Yes.
I'm sorry, I have questions.
Can I just piggyback on what you
Yes.
just? Okay. So I have a question. When they're tested in the fall,
Mhm.
so if they're in grade 4, are they tested on what they learned in grade 3 and remember? Or it's what they learned in grade 3 and how they're going to apply it to grade 4 without actually learning it yet?
It's a mixture of both. So some of the questions spiral and they're cumulative based on content or skills they have learned in the prior grades, but because the NWEA is adaptive, if a student is performing successfully with those questions, the assessment will push a student to answer questions that are aligned with grade level standards that are above where they are.
So they're using their skills from the previous level.
Yes.
So that explains why those fall numbers are really always, in most cases, lower, and then we take such a big jump in the spring.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay, that's a good question. You mentioned cohorts, so in the NWEA growth projection,
Yes.
the kindergarten in 2020, in spring 23 are the spring 2459?
Correct, the first graders, yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can look diagonally across, yep, to see how cohorts perform over time.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to understand.
Yeah.
And then, I know that the New York State grades, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
Third grade. I know you said that some students did not take the test. I know there's been, the whole opt-out movement thing and so forth, right?
Yes.
Have we ever tried to get an idea as to why they decide not to take it? Besides that, they just say, oh, we don't want our kids to, some parents may say, I don't want my kid to take it because they get stressed out or, it's not even necessary or whatever the case may be. But do we have an idea of that percentage, why are they opting out? Or we haven't just done that analysis yet?
I would have to learn more about that. I'm not sure at this point what the process has been in the spring here, so I can get back to you with that.
Okay, yeah, I'm just kind of curious as to why we're still, parents are still
Yeah.
opting out.
Mhm.
And then the other question regarding that, this test, is it digital?
It's computer-based, yes.
Okay.
The students took the test on the computer.
I'm a horrible test taker. I would have to say that, and if it's digital, I'm worse. However, do we give some type, is there an opportunity to train or to give a little bit of help to students on how to take these exams?
Absolutely. So there's a whole process for preparing our school community for a computer-based assessment administration. We actually started already. Last week, we had our first training with a representative from BOCES, where our testing coordinators come together with our building principals and our administration, Ms. Semengo and myself, and we go through the whole process of administering the computer-based assessment from preparation, which has started in the fall, all the way till after the test has been administered. Part of that training is to look at some student sample material. There is a link that we look at sample questions. You can play with the tools that students have access to, whether it's a digital ruler, a digital highlighter, a digital Post-it. So the adults become familiar with the tools, and then we disseminate that information in a faculty meeting setting and grade level meetings so that teachers become familiar with the tools. And then, a couple of weeks before the administration of the exam, teachers integrate that resource into how they prepare students to take the computer-based assessment, and they teach students not only the thinking to approach the questions on the exam, but also how to navigate the digital platform. Typically that involves allowing kids to play a little bit with all the digital tools, just as if you were to put math manipulatives in front of them on the table. And once they kind of play and get familiar, then we move to, strategic instruction of why would you use a digital Post-it? Why would you use a highlighter? How can we use the tracker for the reading to help us to navigate digital text on a screen? So that was a long way of saying, yes, we help the, we help the students.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
I appreciate that. And that is all for me.
Okay.
I have two questions.
Sure.
The first is, I'm just wondering if we could get information for subgroups, like our ENL population or students with disabilities, just because I'm curious about that.
Sure.
Just so it's kind of balanced.
Yep.
And then last year was the first time that 5th grade did the science test.
Correct.
Okay, and I was just wondering if there was any feedback from anybody about that. I know that there was, it was common in 4th grade forever, and then there was a little pause and now it's 5th. So I was just wondering if we felt like our curriculum was meeting the needs of the students, if they felt successful with it.
So I can share some general feedback just as an educator, that I heard about the 5th grade science exam. It was a heavy literacy-based test, lots of reading. We had the investigations leading up to, I know in Valley Stream 13, all the students participated in the investigations that were needed to successfully access the content on the exam. And then part of the summer curriculum project that was done in science this past summer was in response to some of these changes that have happened across the state and what the expectation is to make sure that the curriculum is aligned with the standards. And then the next step really is, because it was the first year of the administration of the 5th grade exam, I'll work with the instructional coaches to look at the release sample material, look at the questions, look at what standards were heavily addressed in that 5th grade exam, and then look at our curriculum, especially the upcoming units in the spring, and now how we can build in some of that preparation that may not have been there in the past just because the assessment was new. So that would be the next step. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ridley. I heard the science test was really, really hard. I heard the science test was really, really hard. Yeah. I think that many of the school districts sent feedback to the state about how difficult the 5th grade science test was. And I believe the state is going to do some rewriting of the test, but that takes several years. So we'll keep you posted on that, but good question.
I think I'm up with the education committee. Is that?
Not yet.
Oh, you're going?
Yeah, we're still.
I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm concluding. I just wanted to say and wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, and that concludes the report of the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Larka.
Moving on to the Education Committee, Trustee Sabatino.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I move item number 1, curriculum approval of materials. Resolved pursuant to New York State Education Law 1709, 3 and 4, the Board of Education hereby prescribes the following curricular materials and textbooks to be included in the course of study by which the pupils of the district schools shall be graded and classified. A, jump rope readers and guided reading readers.
Second.
Moved in second on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I move item number 2, approval of teacher to instruct in service course. Resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves Antonella Siscioli to prepare a teacher workshop for November 5th, 2024 at the rate listed in the motion for 2 hours.
Second.
Moved in second on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I move item E, Education Committee consent, numbers 1 through 10, which ends on page 4.
Second.
Moved in second on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'd like to turn over to Trustee Vincente, the chair of the Education Committee, to provide a report about our most recent meeting.
Good evening, everyone. The Education Committee met today to discuss the ongoing professional development in writing instruction, the implementation of the new writing workshop units of study, and writing celebrations. This work began in 2021 as grade 4 teachers were the first to participate in professional development and the implementation of writing workshop units of study. All the grades have participated or are currently participating in this work. Students engage in the writing process multiple times throughout the school year and have choice in their writing. The units are aligned with the next generation writing standards. Family members and special guests are invited to attend at least one writing celebration each year. Many writing celebrations are taking place this week during the American Education Week. And Mr. President, that concludes our Education Committee report.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Business Committee. Trustee Farrell.
Good evening, everyone. I move item 1, appointment of Assistant Business Administrator, to approve the appointment of Elisa Duger to a 4-year probationary term as the Assistant Business Administrator, effective November 27th, 2024, on terms and conditions set forth in an employment agreement dated November 26th, 2024, and be it further resolved that the President of the Board be authorized to execute the same.
Second.
Moved in second on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I move item G, 1 and 2 as a consent agenda.
Second.
Moved in second on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that concludes the Business Committee for this evening.
Thank you. We're going to move forward to policy. Back to Trustee Sabatino.
Thank you. The Policy Committee met last Tuesday and reviewed the second portion of policies that require an annual review. The committee also reviewed policies with recommended changes from the New York State School Boards Association that included Policy 8635R, Information and Data Privacy, Security, Breach, and Notification Regulation, Policy 1120, School District Records, and Policy 8130, School Safety Plans and Teams. This month, the committee is recommending the adoption of a new policy on artificial intelligence that is listed for first reading. In addition, the committee is including the substitute policy for first reading with an update that includes the category of permanent substitute. Policy 8220 and 8700 are included for first reading to fix typos in the policies. The next meeting of the policy committee will be on Monday, December 9th at 9 a.m. in the district office. So the policies for first reading tonight are 9270.1 substitutes, 8636 artificial intelligence, 8220 buildings and grounds maintenance and inspection, and 8700 insurance. Then I move item 2, policies for second reading and adoption. They are 2325 video conferencing of board meetings, 8414.5 alcohol and drug testing of bus drivers, 8414.5R alcohol and drug testing of drivers regulation, 8414.5E.1 alcohol and drug testing of drivers exhibit, 8520 free and reduced price meal services, and 9260 conditional appointment and emergency conditional appointment student safety.
Second.
Moved in second on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes the policy committee.
Thank you. Moving on to facilities, they're actually going to meet next month with we'll have some updates then. Committee of the Whole, Vice President Cavallari, I will jump in and move item K. Move K, items 1 through 5 for the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved in second on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, and we will head on to the report of the attorney.
Thank you. Tonight I'll provide the district clerk with a report regarding a matter where our office defended a school board regarding a late transportation request. The decision is significant because the commissioner, as far as I can tell for the first time, specifically ruled that there's no legal obligation of a school district to remind parents of the April 1 deadline, although they are certainly permitted to do so.
Thank you. High school report?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. 6 Valley Stream Central High School students were listed as musicians selected for the NYSSMA All-State Festivals. This selection recognizes the students' talent and hard work in their respective musical and art fields. 2 South students have their research published in science journals. Alyssa Gonzalez and Shalini Mambath had AP research projects published in science journals over the summer. And 2 South seniors and 2 Central seniors have been named semifinalists in the National Merit Scholarship Competition. Also, Central's master physics teacher, Robert Dela Cruz, has had his research published in an educational journal. The article offers an innovative model for teaching the inverse square law concept in science. I ask everyone to please watch our Board of Ed senior representatives as they report on all the exciting things going on in their schools on the live stream of the Board of Ed business meetings. Check the website for meeting dates, and we wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Trustee Farmer. Going to old business. Any old business? No. New business.
Mr. President, I would like to ask our superintendent a question regarding if she could elaborate a little bit of what we've been hearing about the regionalization piece that's, you know, very popular lately.
Sure.
Give me your feedback or give some information regarding that.
So, you may have heard, as recently as today, there was some information posted about the New York State Regionalization Initiative. It was actually on News 12 today. The New York State Education Department implemented a regionalization initiative in an effort to have districts be able to collaborate with other districts for educational purposes. And there have been some concerns expressed by other boards of education, superintendent groups about this plan as to what the parameters will be for the BOCES district superintendent, what the obligations of school districts are for participating, and whether or not the BOCES would have more control over local school districts than they have had previously. So those are certainly some valid questions and concerns to address. Today, the State Education Department came out with a memo, which I'm sure is published on their website, NYSA.gov, that indicates that after a public comment period, there has been a public comment period for the past 60 days on this initiative, that they are going to make some changes to the regulation that would include allowing school districts to opt out of participation in the survey that was previously required for this purpose, in consultation with local boards of education. So I think, I'm sure the board has read and been listening and keeping up to date on this regionalization initiative. I think it's important for our community to know that we as a district already participate in initiatives to share resources as cost-saving measures or to provide opportunities for the betterment of our students. So one of the initiatives that we do already participate in our region is we have a cooperative bus bid with the Southwest Quadrant districts, which include some of our neighbors. And some of our other neighboring districts do things like share swim teams or other sports teams. And we work on shared services already with our local BOCES, the Nassau BOCES, through, they provide professional development at their district. We have shared services that are provided for technology. So many of the things that were listed as part of this regionalization initiative actually already take place. And much of the data collection that the state is asking school districts to do is data that the state already has through their local, through the regional information centers, which are also part of BOCES. So my recommendation right now would be that the board continues to keep up to date on this important topic, that we see what additional detail the state is going to provide on the memo that it really was a very, not a long memo. It was a brief information, but I think the board and the superintendents need to get more clarity at some of the statements that were made in today's memo, and then something that we may want to talk about again under new business next month.
Thank you. Yeah, I think as a board, we'll feel that local controls are being, kind of concerned with all this. So we will hopefully hear more and keep up to date on everything until next month. At this point, no visitors, so that would conclude our business meeting. Can I get a motion for executive session?
I make a motion for executive session with the superintendent, the attorney, board, and the assistant superintendent of business for personnel.
Second.
Moved in second on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are in exec session. Thank you, everybody. Have a happy Thanksgiving.